All right, so good evening, everyone. My name is Ms. Prosnick. I'm the College and Career Advisor here at Northgate, and tonight is our Senior Informational Night where I will go over bits of information for you. I have also here one of our academic counselors, Ms. Bly, is going to be helping answer questions, and if there's any information she might have insight for, she'll jump on. So we'll both be helping you out today. We're going to be going through a lot of information as it relates to the colleges and the college application cycle and a little bit of financial aid. Oh, and Miss Owen is here as well. So I'm sorry. I have both Miss Bly and Miss Owen, two of our academic counselors who will be able to assist us with any questions that you may have. So we're going to go over our general graduation requirements, A to G requirements, timelines, any updates and to-dos, bit into the different college systems and application portals, and then so we went into the classrooms, the senior classrooms, at the end of August, beginning of September. Some of this information will hopefully be familiar to any students who are with us today. We went over the graduation requirements, which you can see here, as well as our A to G requirements. Now, one of the main things to be aware of is for our graduation requirements, classes must be passed with a D or higher. But for college requirements, we are looking at that C or higher. And so please make sure that if you do have any Ds or Fs, or if looking through you have not met any of the class requirements, if you still do not have like a performing arts class or any of those things, make sure that you are reaching out to your academic counselor so that we can get that fixed. Or if you have any questions, likewise, go ahead and reach out to them. So just to clarify what the A to G requirements are, these are the application or the admissions requirements, academic requirements that are specific to our California state universities, the CSUs, and the University of California system. These classes are the ones that are used to calculate your GPA for consideration. So you've probably seen in HomeLink that you have 6 different GPAs, 3 weighted, 3 unweighted, our 10 through 12 GPA, which is used by our CSUs and UCs to help determine your eligibility. When you're looking at that total GPA, that's used often with our private institutions. But please know that while our A to G requirements are very similar to most university admissions requirements academically, other systems may have some other requirements or different ways that they calculate your GPA. So for example, I put on here both our University of Nevada and University of Arizona systems and those classes that they require. And in both cases, they take those classes, so coursework, your 4 years of English, the grades that you've gotten there, 3 years of mathematics, 3 years of natural science, your social studies for University of Nevada. And when they calculate your GPA, it has to be a 3.0 or higher to be admitted into that system, or to be considered. Certain majors may be more competitive than others. And so one of the things that you want to be doing now is certainly making sure, just double check that you are making, that you are meeting all of those requirements for the universities that you're interested in. And again, if you have any questions about that, please reach out to your academic counselors or myself, and we can go through what your options are moving forward. We do find that as long as students are meeting both graduation and A to G requirements, they're probably meeting our requirements for our other systems. But again, it's certainly something to look at. So in looking at the college list, go ahead and load all of these. So hopefully you have kind of been putting together and you have some ideas of universities and colleges that you might want to apply to. I do want to point out sometimes people only list names that you know, because maybe you know their sports teams, or you might know that they have an excellent MBA program, or you have friends and family who've gone to these different universities. And that's a great way to get to know a school. But there are like 4,000 universities and colleges in the United States. So there's a lot of schools out there. And we want to make sure that you are really exploring everything. In Naviance, we have a wonderful tool, the college super match tool. So if you kind of have your list, but you're looking for some more colleges that maybe you haven't heard about, that's a neat tool to use. You can put in about 37 different criteria. So be it a particular location, or if there's a sport that you really like to watch or that you want to play, you can put that in. If you're really interested, for example, in a school or university that has a choir, you can put in all of these different things, and Naviance will help to present you with a list of possible college matches. Definitely, as you are exploring those colleges, see, do you really connect well with their environment? I know I talked in your junior classes in the spring, which feels like quite a long time ago, about environment. And so, after you do your career interest profiler and the strengths explorer, um, you can get an idea about what type of environment works best for you. And so, as you are exploring colleges and going to virtual informational sessions that they might have, or coming to the informational sessions that we have on campus, see how you're connecting with those representatives. If you haven't attended maybe some other virtual events that they're having online where you can meet current students, or even you can contact the different admissions offices and sometimes see if there's a current student that you can talk with, again, making sure that it's a really great environment for you. And also make sure that the school that you're looking at meets all of your needs. If there are academic, so maybe you're interested in eventually going into medical school or dental or physical therapy, law school, do they have those supports for you moving forward so that you can really put together a great undergraduate experience academically as well as socially, for what your goals are moving forward? Do they have the ability to offer good financial aid for you, housing needs? If there's anything specific, right now is really the time to be looking at those details. And if you're not sure, make sure that you are reaching out to the different offices, looking at their webpage and asking those questions. And if you need any help with that, certainly let me know. I personally have great experiences working with admissions offices and even reaching out to like disability support services and different housing offices and asking them these questions. So universities are really there to help you, and they want you to make sure that it's going to be a good fit for you. All right. So the other thing that I just wanted to make sure, as you're looking at, your to putting together and finalizing your college list, we usually kind of have a great idea over the summer, and then the fall hits and we can slightly expand it out a little bit. But as you start to re-narrow down your list of colleges to apply to, I would encourage, or my advice, and any of the academic counselors, if you have advice as well on this, I would encourage you to only apply to colleges that you truly are interested in going to. If you're have a college on the list, but it's you're like, I would never go there, but you just kind of have it as a safety, I mean, really consider why you are applying to that school. If hands down, the only school you want to go to is UC Davis, and it really doesn't matter if you get accepted to I'm trying to think of another awesome school. Let's see, or CSU Long Beach. There is options for you where you can even go to DVC or any of our California community colleges and participate in the TAG program. So transfer admissions with a guarantee to, go to one of our, go to UC Davis if that really is something that you would like to do. So just something to think about and have in your mind, that I really would encourage you to apply for those schools that you truly are interested, and also know that there are many different pathways to your dream school. Also, explore those scatter graphs in Naviance. So in some of the senior classes, I was able to show this, but if you go into Naviance and you search for a particular school, Under the admissions tab in that school, you can find the scatter graph that shows how many students from Northgate specifically have applied to that college and how they've been accepted or denied or waitlisted. It's a really neat way for you to kind of gauge how you fall in terms of normal acceptances to that school, whether it's a reach school or a target school for you. So you're really looking at your GPA in relation to how it is with our other acceptances into that school. Please know, recently, the GPAs in Naviance have not been matching your true GPA. So I would look in HomeLink as you're looking at those scattergrams. But it's a really neat way for you to see if a school is definitely a reach or if it's something a little bit more on target for you. And also know, as you're looking at colleges, as you're looking at those scattergrams in the middle 50%, you are unique. And so make sure that you're not comparing yourself to other people for kind of the wrong reasons. Applications change. We've had some big changes within our application systems. Well, within the last 2 years, as it particularly relates to testing. School goals may change. So something that maybe a student a few years ago who got into a really competitive school, it might have been a really good fit for them at that time and where the school goals were, but things change. You don't always know why someone got accepted or denied, but you are going to be presenting yourself to the school. You are a unique individual. You're a really awesome individual, and the schools know that, but they also want to make sure that it is a good fit for you. So your goal here is to present yourself as yourself, be true to yourself throughout this entire process, because you are awesome and there will be a good fit for you. And if you need to talk through it more, I know you've been talking with your academic counselors one-on-one about your goals. So we're all here for you to really help you through that process. Mrs. Owen and Mrs. Bly, do you guys have anything kind of advice that you would add?
No, I think that pretty much covers everything. I mean, I can't think of anything else I would add to that. We've been meeting with the students individually, and I feel like a lot of the students they already have an idea of where they're applying and working on their list in Naviance. So that's great. I mean, I would say just if they have any questions about their list, they can ask us and we can help them. We're here for them.
And I'll just echo what Kristen said, that as we're meeting with them in Naviance, just be sure and go through the list with them. And I've met with some students who aren't sure where they want to apply. So going in Naviance and using the Super College Match is a really, really great tool to be able to put in that criteria. So for those of you that didn't know about that, ask your students to show you that information, and they log in through Naviance through Clever. So it's a really, really great tool to use.
Yeah, and you can get to that Clever login under the resources bar on the Northgate High School main page, or you can get there from my webpage as well, the main page. All right, so going through our timeline, there we go. So our students saw this in the spring when I went into the junior classes. So looking at that super match, looking at college fairs, get on social media pages, get on mailing lists for any schools that you're interested in. I know that you're probably getting a lot of outreach from different colleges and universities right now, particularly if you have taken any AP exams or PSAT or anything through College Board. There's an option that most people select in order to get information from them, but pay particular attention to those schools that you really are interested in. Make sure that you are on their mailing list so that you do get the most up-to-date information from those schools. If you haven't taken the Strength Explorer assessment in Naviance or the Career Interest Profiler, or it has been a while since we did the Career Interest Profiler spring of your sophomore year, I would go back and look at that assessment again, because I think it's a great way for you to just reflect on your own strengths, on those environments that you work well in. And that can be really helpful as you're putting together your applications and as you are looking at colleges and all of the different environments out there. I'll talk a little bit more about the SAT, ACT in a minute, but look at the university web pages and see if you need to take that exam or if it's test optional, and if that would be something that you would be interested in doing. Um, Going into now the fall, we again want to really make sure and see what are the requirements for the application of the colleges you're applying to. Does your college accept letters of recommendation? Most state university systems, including our CSUs and UCs, do not take letters of recommendation unless they ask you for them. Whereas a lot of our private schools do. If you're applying to a Common App school, your academic counselor will have a form that they need to complete for all of the students applying to Common App school. So right off the bat, if you're applying to a Common App school, make sure that you are reaching out to your academic counselors and submitting the Google request form. The Google, it's a personal data form that is linked to on my webpage. If you need a letter of recommendation, you can make that request for your teachers through Naviance, and we do recommend that you give them at least a month. And then also, now that we're just about in October, make sure that you are double checking those deadlines to see which deadline you will need. Deadlines can start as early as October 15th, particularly for some of our arts programs, performing arts programs. And then our early action, there is a whole group of early action deadlines, early decision deadlines on November 1st. So definitely see if you will be using any of those deadlines. Otherwise, our more traditional deadlines are about January 1st or 5th through about March or so. About every 15 days, there's a deadline. So definitely see what are your deadlines for next fall 2022. Make sure that you are going on the application, the university admissions webpage, to see what application portal you're going to be using. I'll go through that information in a little bit more, but there will be, every university will have a designated, or maybe two designated application portals that they use. And so make sure that you are seeing which one is required for the schools you're applying for. Are essays required, or is an audition or a portfolio required? All right. I'm going to expand on that in a little bit, and I'll probably mostly take questions that you guys may have. But going into some of our updates, so the both our UCs and our CSUs are going to be test-free for this upcoming academic year. So you do not need to worry about taking or submitting SAT or ACT scores through both of those systems. And I will send out this PowerPoint. It has the links to the application pages for the CSUs and the UCs, where they talk about this in a little bit more detail. Please know that, though, that a majority of our private and out-of-state schools continue to be test optional, with some exceptions like the University of Florida and the University of Georgia systems. The other kind of interesting thing with our test optional schools, while they continue, I continue to feel very confident that when they say they're test optional, that they really are meaning it, that they have a really good matrix to consider you equally, whether or not you are submitting a test score or not, so that you are not at a disadvantage or advantage either way if you submit or don't submit the test scores. But I have been hearing the wording from a number of our universities that if you do take the exam and you are within their normal 50% of test scores of what they accept at, then a lot of the schools are saying, yeah, go ahead and submit it, because that's basically something that we are looking for. But if you are below that, that's fine, because they will be able to best evaluate you based off of your academic transcript and the work that you have, the coursework that you have completed. All right, everybody still with me? All right, so moving forward. So I'll go into some application to-dos, and then we'll get into some system information. Since we do have those early action deadlines that start in November, at the beginning of November, and then our CSUs and our UCs have an application deadline of November 30th. So we are really looking to try to finalize your list as much as possible in October. So this is our next month coming up. So continue to explore colleges, go to the informational sessions that we have. NACAC continues to do virtual college fairs that you can participate in. And so I try to put these in my calendar, or else you'll find some of this information I will repost on my Instagram and Twitter pages. But really work on finalizing your list. On average, students apply to 7.8 colleges on average. So certainly some, again, a little bit under that or over that, but I encourage you to truly apply to those schools that you are interested in, and if you were accepted, that you would accept them back. Make sure that you are getting to know your application portals. So again, I'll go into that in a little bit more detail in a bit, but know which portals you need. When I went into the senior classes, I had every single student make a copy of a Google document to help keep track of all of the different portals and the logins and what might be required for the different applications. If you need to find that, again, go ahead and reach out to me. Or you can go to the Senior Action Plan page, and I have links there. And again, know the requirements for your applications. If you have specific questions about universities or the application system, or the application requirements, excuse me, please feel free to let me know, your academic counselors know your questions or concerns, and also feel free to reach out to the different admissions offices. That no one knows more about their applications and about their requirements than the admissions officers. And I think they're really great, a great resource for you to tap. So I do encourage you as much as possible, particularly for your top schools, to reach out to those admissions officers. Most universities will have someone designated to our high school, to our area. And you can ask me for help. Often these are the people that are coming in for our rep visits, are our people. They're the ones who read your applications, and so can really answer those questions. And I have their contact information as they come in for visits, or we can always look for that information together. All right, so I want to go into, I've kind of split out the different systems in a couple of different ways. So we have within the state of California, our California community colleges, our CSUs, our UCs. We have, what is it, about 80 private California colleges, and then there's everybody else. So I'm going to kind of break it down a little bit about the different systems so you can see that there really are a lot of college and university options for you out there. So first off, there we go. So first off, we have our California community colleges. One of the best things about them right now is the first 2 years are free for students within our district. So if you were to graduate from Northgate and then go to DVC, Las Madonnas College, or Contra Costa College, which are the community colleges within our district, and you submit the FAFSA, which I'll go over in a minute, and you can and sign a contract basically saying you'll be in good standing and a full-time student. You can get the first 2 years of your academic experience for free. So you won't have to pay any of those tuition fees. So that's a really great deal. Within, just so you know, there are 116 campuses within the California Community College system, and they really pool on the resources of the community around them. So for example, if you're really interested in the performing arts, what is it, Santa Monica Community College or City College has an amazing performing arts program. And, if you are looking to do, there's very specific training programs. Let's see, Las Madonnas College has like a recording arts program that's really neat. If you're looking to become a dental hygienist, DVC has a great program for that. And so it's really neat to explore that. And depending on what it is you want to do, the California Community Colleges is the pathway to that career that you're looking at. If you're looking to, for example, going into an apprenticeship program, a lot of them are quite competitive. And so it's good to look at like the DVC pre-apprenticeship program, for example, to make you a more competitive applicant into any of those. You have to have a high school diploma. In the spring is when we'll go through that application process. So around February, you'll hear about the information session, and we complete all steps. to then be able to register. The California community colleges also have a really good partnership with our UCs and our CSUs, as well as I want to say it's about 40 of our private California colleges where they know that if you take X, Y, and Z classes at DVC, then it will transfer over to the four-year institution that you're going to. And of course, they have partnerships, or you can also transfer those classes to out-of-state schools and other schools as well. So it's really good. I would encourage all students to consider in the spring, since it will get started with the DVC applications before you have your final acceptances from colleges. I think it's a great idea to consider going through the steps and putting in your application for our California community colleges to just really help make sure that that pathway is available for you moving forward. Okay, our second system, our California State University schools. So we have 23 campuses. A lot of people are surprised to see there are so many campuses. There's Channel Islands, there's San Luis Obispo, there's San Marcos, Humboldt, so there's Chico, a lot of really great campuses around the state. The requirements, we're again looking that you have to have, of course, graduate, but meet those A to G requirements with a C or higher. And they are looking for a 2.5 GPA or higher, although with some of our impacted school sites, so like San Jose, San Luis Obispo, you are really looking at a higher GPA in order to be considered. And we can always talk about that in a little bit more detail one-on-one if you'd like. There is an amazing webpage that I have listed here, degrees.calstate.edu. I love this webpage because you can go to it, enter in keywords for something that you would like to study, and it'll bring up a list of all of the CSU campuses that have that major, but it'll also show areas of concentration. So for example, if you just put in biology, it'll show biology general, but then it might show areas of concentration. Oh, now I can't think of them, like microbiology or different, marine biology, different areas of concentration within that. And so I think it's a really neat way for you to explore not only majors, but also our CSU campuses. I feel like I'm missing something on CSUs. Help me if I am, but if not, I'll move forward. So next we have our UCs. There we go. So there are 10 campuses, 9 are open to freshmen, the 10th one being University or UC San Francisco, which is just at the graduate level. Application requirements, we have our A to Gs, a 3.0 or higher to meet those minimum requirements. As part of the application, they really use a holistic review. So they will be looking at your extracurriculars, different involvement, your leadership, really looking at you holistically. And there are personal insight questions for you to answer as well. So there's 8 personal insight questions. You will select 4 of them to write about, 350 words each. And this is a really great way for, again, you to showcase who you are. So as you're looking through these different questions, make sure that you are thinking about how you would like to present yourself so that the universities can just get that really holistic idea of who you are and where you are looking to go moving forward. I have on here, if you have not looked at that application portal, you can go to admission.universityofcalifornia.edu to create a username and to get into that application system. So I would encourage you to do that because there are different parts of this. Oh, thank you, Kristen. There are different parts to the application, and so it's always great to get into these different portals early on. And as Ms. Blythe said, yes, so the CSU application will open on October 1st, and the deadline is November 30th. With our UCs, the application did open for you on August 1st, and then you can submit the application anytime in between November 1st through November 30th. And with the UCs, anytime works fine. I do encourage you not to wait till the very end of November to submit your application. You know, a couple days earlier, about a week earlier would be fantastic. It'll be low stress for all of us. But, you know, you do have the entire month to submit with our CSUs. Anytime in October, you would be able to submit. And do you need the web page for the CSUs? Um, I have a couple of different places where I have that, so I'll show that in a minute. But the degree search was degrees.calstate.edu. All right, so and then everything else. So our private colleges in California or out of state, the requirements may vary by campus. Many times the academic requirements will be similar to our A to Gs. Many are test optional for the class of 2022. So definitely make sure that you are going to the individual web pages and seeing what are the requirements are, what portals they're using, if they have essays that they need from you, if they have letters of recommendation or counselor forms that will be required as part of that application. But it'll definitely vary. A lot of times there will be an essay for our private colleges. They are using that holistic review, which is really great. And private colleges are great because sorry to back up a little bit, our CSUs really are kind of their mandate, their purpose is to really serve the changing economics needs of the state of California. So we find a lot of business programs there. There's interior design programs there, a lot of really neat programs for majors where the fields might be changing quickly. Our UCs, of course, are our research institutions. They do research for the benefit of the state of California. And so if you are really interested in research, you know, the UCs would be a great system. When you start looking at out-of-state systems, you know, oftentimes there might be a research institution within that state system, and then there'll be other ones that are, again, serving those economic needs, the changing, you know, really focusing on those changing areas. Private colleges will really run all over the place. And so it's fun to explore and see, okay, are they liberal arts? Are they, you know, do they have focuses like Drexel, where they have you do co-ops, where you're spending part of your time working as, you know, part of the academic experience. And so it's really great, again, to go to that college supermatch tool and just explore what is out there. And if you have any questions or you need help with that, kind of figuring out what's best for you, go ahead and meet. We can have you know, 1 or 2 meetings one-on-one or with your academic counselor to just explore that more. I also wanted to point out our WUI schools. So the WUI saviesfinder.wichi.edu is a wonderful web page. Our WUI schools are state institutions in the western part of the United States. With the exception of like University of Oregon and University of Washington. But their big selling point is these are state schools, and instead of paying out-of-state tuition, you're usually paying about 150% of in-state tuition. So let's say you really want a great research school, you're looking at University of New Mexico, instead of paying their out-of-state tuition, which I think is around $28,000, if you qualify for the WUI rate, so you're applying, you go there and you're meeting their minimum requirements, I think they do have a 3.0 for the WUI program, and you would only be paying like $10,000 for your tuition. So it's really a great deal. And I do encourage you to explore our out-of-state schools through the WUI program if you haven't already. Thank you, Mrs. Owen, for putting in the chat that link. Okay, so looking at our different application portals. So Naviance is a wonderful tool that we have that you can use to explore colleges. That's where you can request your letters of recommendation for the Common App from your teachers, but it's not an application portal. So just that you know, that's why I'm not super worried, even though I know that the GPAs are not showing up properly there. It's okay, because what is going to the colleges is the transcript. So it's same as the information that you see in HomeLink. It's not an application portal, but it is, again, very helpful to us as we are putting together those applications. I do encourage you, as I kind of was alluding to earlier, and I know that we stressed this a lot when we went into the senior classes, I do encourage you to think of each college as having their own application portal. It's nice to think of it that way, particularly if you're applying to a number of schools that use the Common App. Because if any of you guys have already gone into the Common App and created your profile, you'll notice that there's a section of information that is sent to every Common App school that you're applying to. But then you'll go under that colleges tab in the Common App, and you'll see that different colleges might have their own individual requirements. They have their own individual requirements as it relates to letters of recommendation, as it relates to maybe additional essays, different questions that they might have, the ability for you to choose the different majors. And so I, again, encourage you to use that spreadsheet that all the students downloaded, and you can also find in the Senior Action Plan page, to just keep track of all of these different portals and what is required. The kind of common portals that you might have would be the Common App. About 840 plus schools use that. The Coalition app, which is a smaller percentage of schools. And then a lot of universities and state school systems will have their own system. So of course, our UCs have their own application portal. The CSUs have their own application portal. Texas university system schools have their own application portal. So make sure that you are going through and just seeing what application portal that you do need to use. As you go through the application, there are some things that almost every single application portal will ask of you. They'll have you create a username and password. They'll ask for data. They need to know how to get a hold of you. I would personally use my personal email in these cases, just so that you know, the mdusd.net email will be retired after you graduate, a couple of weeks after you graduate. So it's always nice to use your personal email, something that you are checking regularly. Pretty much all applications will ask for your transcript information. And this often means that you will be literally entering in all the classes that you have taken, as well as the grades that you have gotten. So go into HomeLink that has a copy of all of your class information, or else you can ask myself or your academic counselors for a copy of that transcript to make it easy for you to enter it in. And then a lot of applications will also have test reporting. So if you have taken any AP exams, for example, that would be something that you can share in the application. They may include, oh, thank you, Ms. Bly, for putting the application action plan Google Sheet in there. The applications may also include an essay, personal insight questions, or short answers. So get into those application portals and see what is required. There may be letters of recommendation. You may have a counselor form. And then if you are applying particularly into an arts program, there may be a portfolio that is required, writing sample, audition, make sure that you are seeing what the requirements are. Again, reach out, go to the admissions webpage for each school that you're looking to apply to. As much as possible, I want you guys to go directly to the individual school pages. And so you're not just going into the Common App and seeing what they say you require, but go to the actual admissions page. So if you see that they need letters of recommendation, do they need it from a particular teacher or subject area? It'll say on those admissions pages. So let's say that you are applying to a school that needs a letter of recommendation, probably a private school in most cases. You would be able to make that request from your teachers in Naviance. Now, I highly recommend, and if not require, that you guys talk to your teachers beforehand and make sure that they are able to write you a letter of recommendation. Our teachers do an amazing job. Our academic counselors do an amazing job writing you guys letters of recommendation, but you need to make sure that they are able to do it for you, that they have a conversation with you, so that they do have all the information they need to write you those amazing letters. We do recommend, here I have it as 3 weeks, as much time as possible. We want to give our academic counselors as well as our teachers for you to write that letter. So as soon as you have an idea that you might need a letter of recommendation, make sure that you are meeting with those teachers and giving that information to your academic counselor so that they can start working on those letters. In Naviance, you can make that request. Sorry. Under the colleges tab. So you would go to Naviance colleges, and then in there, you would be able, you'll see something that says letters of recommendation, and you can add your request there. And I have more detailed information on my webpage. There's a direct link. If you go to the Senior Action Plan page again, you can find links to videos that goes through how you can make that request in Naviance. Okay, so moving on, understanding the cost of college so that you have an idea. Here's some general information. We'll be going through this again on our financial aid information night on October 7th. So not this Thursday, but the following Thursday at 7 p.m., where we'll talk a little bit more detail about financial aid and the cost of college. But you can see here, so with our California community colleges, if you're going to our district community colleges, so DVC, LMC, or Contra Costa College, you can submit the paperwork to get those first 2 years free. If you decide that you wanted to go to Santa Barbara City College or one of our other wonderful California community colleges, then you're looking at $46 a unit. So a full year, roughly around $1,380. Start to consider the finances of going to college. Our tuition this year for our CSUs, you can see here, is $5,742. For our University of California schools, $14,100. I love all of our state schools because they do work to keep our tuition costs as low as possible to make it as affordable as possible. But definitely, start taking that in consideration as you're putting together your college list. Not only is it a good fit for you academically, socially, but also making sure the finances meet you as well. Our private institutions, you can see the price goes a little bit higher. But in all of these cases, you have the option, and you might have seen this before, all schools that get federal funding are required to have something called a net price calculator. So if you're like, okay, private schools is way too expensive, go to their webpage and search for net price calculator, or you can go to this webpage here, and you can put in information very similar to what you would put into the FAFSA and get back an idea of how much financial aid you might get. Oftentimes people assume that they're not going to get a lot of financial aid, but that's not always the case, particularly if you have a high GPA. A lot of our particularly private schools out there do offer merit aid, different grants and scholarships. And so it's definitely worthwhile to explore the cost of different colleges, and the net price calculator tool is a great way to do that. So if you have never looked at that, I encourage you to do that. Also, the FAFSA opens this Friday, October 1st, and every year that you're in college and are looking to get some sort of financial aid from the federal government, state government, or the universities you're going to, you'll want to complete the FAFSA. The FAFSA stands for the Free Application for Federal Student Aid. And it's basically the catalyst for the universities to look at your finances to help put together your financial aid package. For those of you who don't know, if you have, after you do the FAFSA, you'll get something called an estimated family contribution, which is how much the federal government thinks you can pay for colleges. If you have more than one student in college at a time, so if you have a student currently in college and now your graduating senior is going to be your second student, that estimated family contribution will now be split through with the two students. And so the chances of you qualifying for more financial aid actually increases. So kind of a neat thing. I know sometimes people will have one student in college and then they're like, oh, I'm not going to do the FAFSA. And then you have your second student come up, and there actually is a greater chance that you will have that. So I encourage you to complete the FAFSA, or if you qualify for the DREAM Act application as well. That way that you can be considered for, again, college, university financial aid, those scholarships, grants, work study, as well as loans. So it opens up, the FAFSA and the DREAM Act application opens up October 1st of each year. And each year that you are hoping to get financial aid, you will go back into FAFSA and update that information. Right now, you can actually create your FSA ID, which is how the federal government knows that you are who you say you are. And you can create that now. Both the student and the parent or guardian will need to create that. And I have those links here. And it's a pretty easy process, thankfully. They've done a really good job. They do an excellent job protecting our data and making sure that that everything is secure. And so you'll complete the FAFSA. I'll go into more information about this again next Thursday, but I highly encourage for you to look at that and then come to the information session next week so that we can talk about it a bit more. Just briefly, kind of on the same note, when we're talking about financial aid, we are looking at free money, so that's grants and scholarships, borrowed money, which is loans, as well as work study, which is basically where the federal government's giving money to the colleges so that you have to help pay for your job on campus. But those are all different parts of your financial aid package. And so when we're talking about financial aid, it is all three categories. And we'll go into that more next week, or if you have any questions at the end of this session. For student athletes, so if you are looking to play a sport in college, please make sure that you are going to the eligibility center, the NCAA eligibility center, and creating a profile if you have not done so. If you're planning to play a sport Division I or Division II, you do need a paid profile. If you're Division III or you're undecided, you can actually create a free account right now. I have uploaded all the transcripts for those students who currently have an account. If you, within the last actually few days, have created an account, please let me know and I'll go make sure that I do have your transcript uploaded there. If you are looking to make connections with those schools, a lot of our universities, if you go to their athletics page, will have a form for you to complete so that the coaches can actually contact you and just make that connection with you about school athletics. All right, so important dates. So right now our UC application is open as well as the applications through the Common App or Coalition app in some of our out-of-state schools. So I encourage you to get into those different application portals and start entering information. The FAFSA or the DREAM Act application opens this Friday, October 1st. The deadline, I forgot to mention earlier, but the priority deadline for the FAFSA and the DREAM Act applications is March 2nd. So you do have some time, but I do encourage students to try to submit by December because there are a number of universities that will, that if you submit your FAFSA by December, you can be considered for greater amounts of financial aid, including our merit scholarships. Our CSU application opens for submission on October 1st. Early action, early decision deadlines start as early as October 15th, although the big first application deadline for most universities, early action, early decision is November 1st, and then it'll continue on. November 30th is our deadline for our UCs and CSUs. So that normally impacts everybody. Keep that date in mind. Again, I would try to submit the FAFSA by around December. And then our general admission deadlines for most colleges is in between January 1st and February 15th or about March 1st. In the senior classes, I went into a lot more detail about the difference between early action, early decision. So we can always talk about that kind of at the end of this presentation if you have questions as well. Oh, and I do have it in there. Oh, so the GPA or actually I'll go into that in just a second. Great question. So upcoming events, again, next week on October 7th, we will have our financial information night. I have on my webpage information about the FAFSA and how to apply some of the different links for the FAFSA and the DREAM Act application, as well as some scholarship search engine pages that I think hopefully will be useful to you. We are in the middle of our rep visits. Actually, I put virtual there. This week I have mostly in-person rep visits, which has been fantastic. If you go into Naviance, so have your student, or for those students here with us right now, go into your Naviance account. Under the colleges tab, you'll see there's the college visits. If you click on that, it'll show the full list and you can register for any of those visits in Naviance. That's how I know to pull you out of class. You can also always see my calendar off of my webpage. So if you go to my webpage under what do I need to know right now, I do have my calendar with all of the upcoming visits. And certainly if you are not already, I encourage you to follow my social media pages. I do a lot of reposting, and it's an easy way for me to get out information quickly. I also, I don't have it here. I have a scholarship Instagram account as well. So I'm normally, that's off of my webpage. You can get the link to that. And that's kind of been my virtual bulletin board of different scholarships that come through and reminders about FAFSA. And certainly you can go on my webpage to get information about action plans, different events coming up, all of those fun things.